Welcome to our What's New webinar. For today, we're going to be talking about Spotlight, which is a new tool within Synapse. We call it our one-stop shop for all things OSINT codification. My name is Mary Beth Lee, and I'm Intel Analyst with the Vertex project. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over briefly what Synapse is for those of you who might be unfamiliar. We're then going to introduce the Spotlight tool and tell you a little bit about what it does and how you can use it. Then we're going to switch over to Synapse, and we're going to walk through a demo of using the Spotlight tool to process some OSINT. So Synapse, for those of you who may not be familiar with the tool, is a versatile central intelligence system that's created to support analyst teams throughout every stage of the intelligence lifecycle. With Synapse, you're able to fuse interdisciplinary data, platforms, and teams all into a single system, which helps to facilitate collaborative analysis. The Spotlight tool is a new tool that one of our devs created. It's really useful for helping to process any sort of OSINT or reporting, anything that you might have in your workflow where you need to take outside indicators or outside reporting from someone and then get it into your Synapse instance. Spotlight gives you the option of uploading either a PDF file or a URL, and it will actually go down and grab that blog or that report from the URL and create a PDF file for you. It helps facilitate a lot of the OSINT process that we would otherwise have to do through either automation or manual efforts. These include things like creating a media news node to help reflect that blog or that report, and then it will actually go through and parse out indicators for you and suggest ones that you might want to ingest into your Synapse instance. Everything that you would want to do with an OSINT report or anything that you're processing is pretty much possible to do with the Spotlight tool. For example, if there's any indicators that maybe were not parsed out by the tool or that I would decide that I do want to capture, I can go ahead and I can highlight and extract them and add them. I'm able to apply tags and other context to those indicators while I'm ingesting them. I can go ahead and review everything before I formally ingest it into Synapse. And I can do a lot of different things that I would use the research tool for, I can actually do within Spotlight itself, so I don't have to be switching back and forth. As an analyst, when I do any sort of OSINT codification, I commonly feel like there's really two options for me. Prior to Spotlight, I felt like I could do automation the entire way through, and I could have something like a cron job that's scheduled to run and pull in reports through an RSS feed. And I would go through, it would create media news nodes for me, it would scrape all the indicators out of the reports, and it would put them into Synapse. That would be great if it was, like a lot of reporting that I was working with, or a lot of indicators, and it would go and I could use that to ingest a lot of information very quickly. But there's the downfall to that is that I'm not actually reading those reports. I'm not actually deciding what was getting scraped in or how things are getting tagged. So I'd lose a lot of context if I went the total automation route. On the flip side, the other option that I felt like I had was just to model things manually, where I'd go up to a website, I'd download a report, or I'd look at a blog, and I'd read through it, and then copy and paste out indicators that I wanted from the blog, go and create them in Synapse and model everything manually, tag, things like that. And the manual effort, it would be time consuming because I would have to do it and it would just be me. I could pair it with some automation sometimes to help if I wanted to enrich nodes or things like that. But it mostly would be just me. It would be a manual effort. It would take a lot more time. Spotlight, I feel like, kind of takes the advantages of both of those efforts and gives us somewhere in the middle where we can actually have a much more facilitated workflow. Spotlight helps me along by creating media news nodes for me or highlighting things that it would scrape in, but then it also gives me a lot more control. I can decide, yes, I want to scrape in that indicator, or no, that's actually not something I want to include. I also have the ability to go through and tag things as I'm ingesting them, so that there's a little bit more context than I would get otherwise if I was going the automation route. So Spotlight, as an analyst, it gives me a lot more control. I'm able to do everything actually within Synapse. I'm not flipping back and forth between Synapse and somebody's blog or somebody's report. It's actually all within Synapse itself. And then I can also go through and I can, besides tagging, I can also run enrichment. I can pull in data through power-ups, and I can also query indicators from Spotlight itself. So it's a little bit easier in that way for me as well. So with that, let's go and we'll switch over to Synapse, and we'll take a look at an ESET blog that actually came out like earlier this month or so, and we'll use Spotlight to go and ingest it. So switch over to Synapse. So here we are in Synapse, and this is actually the Spotlight tool itself. And so from here, I'm going to go and I'm going to upload that ESET blog. And to do that, I have this new document option here. and I'm just going to name it so that I can keep track of it. And we'll say ESET blog. I have the option of uploading either a PDF version of the blog or just supplying a URL, and it will go down and pull down that blog as a PDF and then parse it for me. I actually already have the blog downloaded, so I'm just going to upload it as a PDF just since it's a little quicker. And then I'll submit it, and it'll go ahead and show that PDF for me. So what we have right now is that we have the blog on the left side. So this is the Isaac Whitebird blog from ESET. And then on our right side, we have all of the nodes that were scraped in from this blog. Before we get to those nodes, we'll just take a look at the blog itself. So one of the first things that Spotlight did for me when I uploaded the blog was that it created a media news node, which is how we represent blogs and reports and things in Synapse. I can go ahead and I can populate some of the additional properties that would be on that media news node. For example, I want to make sure that the media news node has a title. So I can go and I can just highlight the title that's in this blog here. I can right click and I can go down to document details, and then I can actually set it as the media news title, and it will go ahead and set that property for me. If I want to grab this little blurb as the summary, I can also set it similarly. I can go down to document details, I can set it as the summary. There might be other information that maybe I want to set to that media news node that I want to type in instead of copying and pasting. And so I can go over to the menu on the side, I can go to document details, and this will actually show me the media news node that it had created. And we can see the title that I just populated and the summary. I can copy and paste the URL. I can also write in ESET as the org that published it. And I think this was originally published on the 1st of March, so I'll set in that date. You can see when it was created in the Cortex, and then I can also see the file hash or the file bytes node actually of the PDF that I uploaded. So if I ever want to download that PDF again, I can easily get it from the file bytes node that's on the media news node. So we'll go ahead and we'll save that here. So if we take a look at all of the nodes that appear on the right side, one of the things that you'll notice is that it says that there are 66 nodes, but only 7 are existing. And this is because when Spotlight goes through and it scrapes all of the indicators that it can find in the PDF, some of them already exist as nodes within Synapse. You can see some of them down here, like this We Live Security domain. It has a little green button on the side, whereas other ones like this attackmiter.org domain is gray. So the MITRE attack domain doesn't currently exist in Synapse, where it looks like the We Live Security domain does. This may have come in through other OSINT that we did or a research project that I did previously. But what Spotlight will do is it will go through and it will scrape everything, and then it will give me the option of if I want to create or add things that it found that don't currently exist. And then one of the things that I find really helpful is that I can actually use this match information on the side to go and see where that indicator exists. So for example, one of the things it says as a domain is this filewipe.py, which to me, I'm a little suspicious about. I think that this might actually be the name of a file. So when I click on it, and I can see that just appears once in the blog. When I click on it, it will actually go to where this appears in the blog, and I can see that this is actually a file that's downloaded. So I don't want to include this. So I can just go ahead and I can actually tell Spotlight to forget about it, and I can tell it to forget the scraped match. It'll go ahead and it will remove it. Later, if I change my mind and I decide that that actually was a domain or that was something that I want to include, I can always go up to the hamburger menu and there's an option to review forgotten matches. And if I decide like this is something that I actually do want to include, I can go and I can actually restore it from here. So this gives me an option to kind of clean up what I'm actually importing into Synapse before I actually create those nodes. So besides the suggested nodes, like that domain that I didn't really want, it also will go through and it will highlight other things that it finds. Like for example, it has, we can see the different hashes that are here, and there's one here, and another hash here. One of the things that you might notice is that this hash has like a very thick gray line around it, whereas these hashes don't. This is also another indicator that it means that this hash already exists, which if we click on it, we can see, let's scroll down a little bit more. We can see the hash here, it's in bright red, and it also has that green dot, which means that this is one of the 7 existing hashes or 7 existing nodes actually in Synapse. One of the things that I find really valuable about Spotlight is that it will highlight for you indicators that not only already exist, but indicators that you've already processed. So in this case, we can see these 3 hashes here are red, and this is because of the tags that are on them. When we click on this one, we can actually see the tags over on the side. It's red because it's something that we previously tagged with sudo hermetic wiper. So we know that this, this hash belongs to a file that we associated with the hermetic wiper malware family. And it looks like Sentinel-1 and Trellix actually also already reported on this hash. So it gives us a little bit of insight into findings that we also already have. So then we're able to re-encounter that data later and know that, oh, like, well, this is something that we've already seen, that we've already processed, that we've already worked on. And I can also go, and if I want to here, I can just add a tag. You can go up to add tags and you can say, keep track of all of ESET's findings. We'll say hermetic wiper, and I'll add that tag there. So I can just go ahead and add as I go. This one is not created yet, so I'm going to want to create it, and I'm also going to want to add a tag. This looks like it's a WMI spreader. So we'll go ahead and tag that. And in this case, I have the 2 hashes, but I also might want this file name, so I can go ahead and highlight it. It's not something that Scrape pulled in for me, but I can easily highlight it, and I can have the option to create a node. So I can just go to create nodes, and this will be a file-based node. And it will show up down here. And I can also go ahead and apply a tag to that to show that's also that WMI spreader. And I can go and add that tag there. So some of the other things that I might want to do in here, we've gone through and we've created nodes by either approving things that Spotlight already scraped in and suggested as a node for us, like these hashes here that were highlighted as suggested nodes. We went ahead and we highlighted another node that we wanted to create that Scrape hadn't pulled in for us. We're also able to, besides creating individual nodes, we can also create them in bulk, which is helpful if you have, if you ever come across like a list of nodes that you want to ingest all in one. Like down here, they have a list of all these different usernames. I could go and I could highlight each one and go and create a node, but I don't really want to do that because there's a lot of them. So what I can actually just do is go highlight all of them and then go click. And rather than create one node, I can go to create nodes plural, and I can pick the option that I want. And in this case, these are all usernames. I want to model them as iNet user. So I'll go click on that. And then it will give me this add no dialog box, whereas I can make any sort of edits in here. If my highlighting, maybe I missed the G in guest, I can go ahead and fix that. I can get a preview of the nodes that I'm going to create. They all look good to me, so I can submit it and create them. And then these are all the nodes that were created. And I can go and I can tag them from here. I think these are SMB spreader. And I can just do that. Similarly, if I wanted to, I could always just go and just highlight them all and then just tag them from here if I wanted to add a different tag, or if I wanted to tag them in the PDF versus in the other dialog box. Oops. So we went ahead and we tagged nodes in bulk. We also were able to just create them in bulk. The fun thing about Spotlight also is that because of the way that our data model is, there's a lot of freedom in capturing information that might not otherwise be identified as an indicator or shared as an indicator, depending on who's writing the report. For example, we have the ability to model commands. So if I wanted, say, this command, I could always go and create it as a command. There are certain node forms that show up as suggested node forms when I go to create a node. In this case, I could create a command just by clicking the IT command, but let's pretend that that node form isn't there. I can always go to other, and it will give me the option of an add node dialog box, and then I can go and I can type in the node that I'm looking for. And it will go and it will put that node or that value in the node for me. It will kind of guide me through creating the node. So that's another way I could do that as well. And when I create the node, it will show up, and then I can go and tag it. I think this is also the SMB spreader. So I can go tag there. So some other things that I might want to create, there's these strings. I can go and highlight these all and create them in bulk because I don't want to create them individually. Can just review them, make sure that it looks like I got everything when I highlighted. and I can create those all, and they're down here. I think this is also, no, this is hermetic ransom, so I'll go apply that tag. And there we go. Sometimes when you're also doing OSINT, you'll find things that are in a picture that you can't scrape in, and that you can't highlight and scrape in, or like the scrape tool won't grab because it's in an image. For example, here we have 2 email addresses that I'm not able to highlight and capture, or the scrape tool isn't able to get for me. Fortunately, we have another way to add nodes. In this case, I'm going to go to the little hamburger menu on the side here, and we have this add node option. It'll bring up a dialog box like the one that we just used, and I can type in an email, inet email, it's the form I want, and then I can type in the value there, jb@protonmail.com. And I can go ahead and add that node that way. So if I'm ever dealing with something where I can't highlight the node and create it, or I can't use the scrape tool to grab it for me because it's in an image, I can always just manually create it. So from here, one of the other things that I might want to do besides going through and identifying nodes, or rejecting some of the suggested nodes that maybe I don't want to include, like this IP address I don't want, I can tell it to go forget it. It will get rid of it for me. I might also decide that I want to go and do some enrichment while I'm here. Let's go to those hashes that we pulled in. I can also do enrichment from Spotlight tool, so therefore when I'm ready to go pivot around in the research tool, that data is there for me. For example, I can go click on this guy, and I can decide that I want to use node actions to pull in, let's say, data from hybrid analysis, and I can see if there's any hybrid analysis data for the specific hash, and that will go ahead and run. I can also say select all of the hash nodes if I want, and it will go ahead and I can select all of them here, and I can use node actions, and it will go and pull in all of the data from whatever power up I decide to pull in data from. If I wanted to do VX Intel or virus total or something like that, I could do that by bulk here. So at this point, we'll go and we'll do what every cooking show does, and we'll go and speed ahead to our final product. So here's my little index of all of the blogs that I've done. Here's the Isaac Wiper blog. So this would be what I would kind of end up with, really, when I've gone through and I've processed this entire blog. I would have all of my indicators here. I'd be able to go through and see, where else did this show up in the blog? I can double check all my work. I have my tags. I've gone and done my enrichment. And at this point, I might want to see, okay, what does this look like within Synapse? All of the nodes that are created here, when I go in and I create them and I tag them, Spotlight is going to automatically model them to the media news node that it created for the blog. So I have an easy way to find them again. I know what indicators the blog referenced, and I also have an easy way to know where these indicators came from. If I'm later doing some sort of OSINT ingest or some sort of reporting, and I come across something that's tagged with rep ESET hermetic wiper, and I want to know, okay, well, what report did we have that mentioned this? It will already be modeled to that media news node. If I wanted to, I could always go and search individual nodes right from here. I can just go query the file base and just lift that specific node. I also have the option, which we'll do here, of actually going and lifting the media news node for the blog itself. I can just go and lift that. It'll kick me over to the research tool. And this is our blog that we processed, and we can see the publish date that we set up, the org name, you can see the title and the summary. We have the URL of the blog. We also have the file that shows actually the file bytes node for the PDF file that we imported. And then if we want to see all of the indicators that we processed, we can just go over, and it will, Spotlight actually uses a ref light edge to show that the media news node is referencing these indicators. So we'll just traverse the light edge, and we can go ahead and lift all those indicators. And we'll be able to see, like, these are all the file base names that were mentioned by this blog. We can see our different tags. We can go pull up our hashes again. We can see the ones that were re-encountered that we've already processed and said this was related to hermetic wiper malware family. we can see the other tags that were just, this is what you said is Isaac Wiper. So from here, I've already gone through and I've uploaded my PDF. It's gone through and created the media news node for me. It's scraped out indicators and suggested some indicators that I might want to create. It showed me indicators that we'd already processed and tagged, so that I was able to find them and know that this is something that we're re-encountering. This is something that we've seen before. I was able to go through and I was able to identify additional nodes that I might want to create. I was able to also clean up some nodes that maybe I didn't want. Some things that wouldn't normally have gotten scraped, like commands or passwords or strings or things. Those I was able to identify with the Spotlight tool and go ahead and create them and tag them. And Spotlight went and linked them back to the media news node for me. If I wanted to, I could have done all of my enrichments maybe on the Spotlight side. So then I could go and just use Spotlight to query the media news node, traverse over to the indicators. And then from here, I would have all of my indicators, they'd be tagged, they'd be enriched, and I could just go and pivot around. And from here, maybe I'd want to see, we can go back to our hashes again. Maybe this would be the point where I'd want to go and explore that hash that they mentioned as hermetic wiper. And I can see like file bytes node. And maybe from here, I want to go and see dynamic data that was pulled in from VirusTotal or from another power up. I could see also where other blogs that mentioned it, but this would be where I would start to go and pivot around and do some of my research. So that's the Spotlight tool in a nutshell. As an analyst, I really like it because I feel like it helps me a lot with all of my work. One of the things that I think I appreciate the most about it is that everything that I want to do with OSINT, I can really just do within the Spotlight tool. It cuts out all of the switching back and forth between somebody's blog or someone's report and Synapse. I don't have to do nearly as much hand modeling. Almost all of the modeling that I did, really besides that one email, has all been either things that I was just clicking, like, create this node, or highlighting and clicking create this node. That one email was really the only thing I typed here. So it makes it a lot faster for me. It helps me catch things that I might not otherwise have caught, but also gives me a lot more control than I would necessarily have had with a totally automated workflow. In this, I can go through and I can actually read the blog within Spotlight and make sure that when I'm going through and I see, what this file name is, I know that they're referring to it in the specific context, that's hermetic ransom. So I could just go ahead and tag it right here. Sometimes I feel like if I'm doing something through a completely automated workflow, I have to go back and find where these things were mentioned. But especially with the ability to see the matches here, it's really easy to go and pivot around and see, like, okay, well, where else did this appear? And in what context, and how might I want to tag it in that way? So that's our Spotlight tool. I hope that this was helpful, and thank you for joining us.